Our family tradition for Thanksgiving was to go to our grandparents' house. They lived in the mountains, and the drives up there were always awesome. The color of the trees changing, and the blue skies were always stunning. My sister and I hopped out of our parents' car that Thanksgiving day. We greeted our grandparents and other family and went into their warm house. We watched football, told stories, and ate lots of food. About 2 hours into our Thanksgiving, my sister, who was all about social media, asked the family to gather outside for a family photo. Everyone in the house gathered on the front porch in the dying sunlight. My grandparents' house always looked nice, but with the setting sun and mountain background, the photo was in top-notch form. My sister had her tripod set up and took the photos. We all laughed and smiled for the pictures. When we were done, we all went back into the house for more food. When I sat down for my third serving of the day, my sister came up and showed me her phone. She had the pictures we recently took out front pulled up on her phone. She asked if I saw anything. I looked at the picture and told her just a good-looking Italian family. She shook her head no and pointed to the top right of the photo. In the photo, my whole family stood on the steps with the house as the backdrop. In the frame, the upstairs windows were captured as well, and at the top right window of where my sister pointed, there seemed to be someone standing there. She scrolled through more of the photos, but they were all normal. There was only one photo that had the extra person upstairs. My sister looked frightened, but I told her not to worry. My aunts and uncles took notice of our conversation, and we showed them the picture with the man upstairs. A few of my uncles chuckled because they thought that we photoshopped the picture, but my sister swore up and down that she did not do that. Finally, grandfather said that he would settle it and went upstairs to check if there was a ghost or intruder. He was pretty buzzed and took it more of a jokingly way, but I had to admit, I was a bit afraid. What if my grandfather went up there and saw something terrifying? Thankfully, he came back down, unscathed, and everyone had a laugh, most assuming the photo was just a bad angle or they just didn't care. But as me and my sister sat there, I pulled out my phone and I did a little research. It wasn't much, but I did find out something strange. And I showed my sister the article on my phone explaining how 85 years ago, a man in this exact same house committed suicide. It was Thanksgiving Day. His family had all been killed a week prior in a car accident. He had felt so alone and agonized until he decided to take his own life. There was a black and white photo of the man. We tried to compare it to the figure upstairs in the family photo, but it was too blurry to tell. To this day, my sister and I still talk about that Thanksgiving day. We have not seen anything strange since then. And in my sister's phone in her pictures albums, she has an album labeled Unknown. It's the single photo of our family that Thanksgiving day with the man in the top window. Maybe one day we will know the truth. We have Thanksgiving at our aunt and uncle's place. They have a really big backyard, and every Thanksgiving, we have a big family football game. It's always a blast and always competitive, and when we're done, we wash up and sit down for turkey and stuffing. This year was no different. We were just finishing up the football game when my cousin punted the ball into the woods. I was closest to the ball, and my dad told me to go get it before I came in. I sighed in frustration because I wasn't the one who kicked the ball. I stepped into the woods and looked for the ball. He did not kick it that far in, but it was getting dark, and the football blended in with all the leaves and the twigs. I was searching for it for about 5 minutes, and still could not find the ball. I was a little deeper into the woods, but could still see my aunt and uncle's house. I was about to give up when I kicked something big. It did not hurt, so it wasn't a rock. I bent down closer to see what I had kicked. I rolled something over, and then nearly fainted. What rolled over was the corpse of a man. His mouth was wide open, as if he had died in terror. There was blood everywhere. I screamed and ran to my aunt and uncle's house. After I showed them what I discovered, the police arrived. They investigated the area and found out the man had been dead for about 3 days. There were multiple stab wounds, indicating that he was indeed murdered. I still see that dead man's wide open mouth in my dreams sometimes. Unfortunately, no one was ever caught for the crime, and even till now, that Thanksgiving Day was the most traumatic day of my life. My parents hosted Thanksgiving every year. I was 21 at the time, fresh out of college, and had moved into my own place about 3 hours away from theirs. The 3-hour drive was killing my bladder. I was only 20 minutes away from their house, but decided that I had to stop at the nearest gas station or I was going to explode. I parked my car and went into the gas station to do my business. When I was done, a man in raggedy clothes approached me. He asked me for money and pointed to his daughter by a rundown car that had boxes and clothes in the back. I assumed it was where they were sleeping. It was Thanksgiving Day, and my heartstrings were being pulled. I was about to walk over to their car with the money, but something instinctual clicked inside of me. I did not like the vibe this guy was giving. I really can't explain why. He seemed desperate, and his little girl looked even worse. I awkwardly told the man that I had to go, and got into my car. I saw him staring at me disappointedly in my rearview window as I pulled away. When I got to my parents' house, all thoughts of guilt and the homeless man were gone. We sat down for turkey, watched football, and enjoyed each other's company. Later on that night, I was getting into my pajamas. Since it was the holiday, I had an extra day off and decided to spend the night there at my parents' rather than drive 3 hours home at night. I was cozy by the fireplace, mindlessly flipping through the channels when I noticed something. On the local news, there was a report about a man wanted for murder, but there was a twist to it. The man was posing as a homeless man, and what's even worse, he's using his daughter to help, who was believed to be around the age of 9. My jaw dropped as I watched the screen. They then pulled up a video surveillance photo of the man and daughter leaving a gas station, the very one that I had stopped at earlier that day. Chills ran down my spine. It was the exact man who had asked me for money before I got into my car. I replayed the scenario in my head, shaking with fear at how close I was to possibly being abducted and killed. I also remembered the uncomfortable vibe I got for seemingly no reason, but now I know that it wasn't a random feeling at all, but rather a more instinctual knowing. I sat there in my parents' living room and shook with fear, but at the same time, extremely thankful to God that I knew how to detect sinister situations when I was in one. Never underestimate your gut feeling, people. They could save your life.